Boxing isn't just about being strong or fast, it's about power. The kind of power that makes the crowd hold their breath with every punch. And when it comes to raw knockout power, nobody did it quite like Tommy Morrison. This guy was on another level. With just one punch, he could send his opponents to the dirt, and the whole place would go wild. His fighting style was a mix of classic boxing finesse and aggressive power punches. He knew how to work the ring, moving with a kind of swagger that only the greats have. He'd set up his punches with jabs, find his rhythm, then bam, land that signature left hook. It was poetry in motion, and it left fans on the edge of their seats every single time. So, how Tommy Morrison went from a small-town boy to a name that echoed in boxing halls around the world. It's a story about unbelievable power and the journey of a lifetime. Tommy David Morrison was born on January 2, 1969 in Gravette, Arkansas. Growing up in Jay, Oklahoma, life wasn't easy for Tommy. His family didn't have much money and his home life was pretty tough. From a young age, Tommy often found himself stepping in to protect his mom from the anger and violence that surrounded him. Tommy came from a family that knew fighting. When he was just 13, his mom got him a fake ID so he could enter the Tough Man contest, which were pretty hardcore. Normally, you had to be 21 to compete. But here was young Tommy knocking out guys twice his age. Bikers, bouncers, you name it. He told the New York Times years later that he only lost once in 15 of those fights. High school was a different world for Tommy. Away from the struggles at home, he really came into his own. He was popular, charming, and not to mention a standout athlete. Besides boxing, Tommy was a star football player. After high school, he even got offered a football scholarship to play at Emporia State University. Just 2 days before preseason started in 1988, he made a big decision. Boxing was his true calling, so he left it all behind, moved to Kansas City. Tommy didn't waste any time showing what he was made of. He started his amateur career with a bang, quickly taking the Kansas City Golden Gloves tournament by storm. Next, he pushed on to the Nationals, where he faced stiff competition and eventually fell in the semifinals to Derek Easeman. Not one to be kept down, Tommy bounced right back. Just a few weeks later, he was at the 1988 Olympic trials, dominating the ring and scooping up the Outstanding Fighter of the Tournament award. It seemed like nothing could stop him. But then came the National Olympic Trials on July 6, 1988, where he narrowly lost to a rising star, Ray Mercer. Mercer would go on to knock out all 4 of his opponents in the Olympics and grab the heavyweight gold. Despite the setback, Tommy's amateur stats were jaw-dropping: 290 wins with 263 of those by knockout against just 21 losses. That's the kind of record that screams big league, right? With the amateur world behind him, Tommy decided it was time to turn professional. He even picked up a nickname honoring his family connection to Hollywood legend John Wayne. He called himself the Duke. His pro debut? November 10, 1988 at the Felt Forum in New York, where he floored William Muhammad in the first round. And he was just getting warmed up. By the summer of 1989, Tommy's record was 14-0. All eyes were on him, and everyone was asking, who could stop this powerhouse? While people started whispering about a potential showdown with Mike Tyson, Tommy knew he needed more time to hone his skills. He was climbing fast, but he wasn't quite ready to take on Iron Mike. It was clear, though, Tommy was a force to be reckoned with, and now it was either sink or swim as he stepped up to face tougher challenges. A new door swung open in late summer 1989 that would change his career trajectory. ESPN reached out, offering him a spot on Tuesday night fights. This was just the break Tommy needed: more eyes on him, bigger fights, and the chance to really show what he could do. His first fight on ESPN was on August 22, 1989 against Jesse Shelby, a seasoned fighter who had once gone rounds with Evander Holyfield. Shelby was expected to be a tough challenge, but Tommy had other plans. From the get-go, he unleashed a barrage of punches, pinning Shelby against the ropes and finishing him off in the second round with a massive right hand. It was clear Tommy wasn't just climbing, he was soaring. Just a few weeks later, another opportunity came knocking. this time from Hollywood. Sylvester Stallone was casting for Rocky V and needed a boxer to play Tommy the Machine Gun. Having seen Morrison's electrifying performance on ESPN, Stallone was convinced he'd found his guy. After they met, it was a done deal. Tommy landed the role, playing the young protege to none other than Rocky Balboa. Although Rocky V didn't smash box office records, Tommy's role was a hit, earning him praise and significantly boosting his profile. With Hollywood calling, Tommy took a 6-month break from boxing to shoot the movie, skyrocketing his fame to new heights. He returned to the ring in June 1990, just after the boxing world was rocked by James "Buster" Douglas' upset win over Mike Tyson. While a super fight with Mike Tyson was put on hold, Tommy was all about moving forward. He came back strong, knocking out Charles Woolard in the second round. Tommy Morrison's journey in the ring took a thrilling turn as he knocked out 2 former opponents of Mike Tyson in the first round, showcasing his explosive power and setting the stage for bigger things. First, he took down James Tillis, dropping him 3 times in the opening round until the referee had to step in. Then, it was Pinklin Thomas, a former WBC champion who couldn't handle Morrison's intensity and quit on his stool after just 1 round. These victories weren't just wins, they were statements, and they catapulted the Duke towards a shot at the title. A few months later, the stage was set for a showdown that was more than just a fight. It was a rematch with a deep backstory. The defending WBO World Heavyweight Champion was none other than Ray Mercer, Morrison's old rival from the Olympic trials. The stakes were high, and the question on everyone's mind was whether it would be a tale of repeat or revenge. Morrison came out swinging, dominating the early rounds with powerful hooks and uppercuts that seemed to promise another quick victory. But Mercer, known for his toughness and resilience, weathered the storm. By the 4th round, Morrison's energy was flagging. He was gasping for air, his strength fading fast. The 5th round was decisive. Mercer took control, pinning Morrison against the ropes and unleashing a relentless flurry of punches. The fight ended with a brutal stoppage, one of the most harrowing the sport had seen, leaving fans and critics questioning the late intervention by referee Tony Perez. This defeat was a harsh blow for Morrison. His strategy to overpower Mercer quickly had backfired spectacularly. Now, faced with one of the toughest losses of his career, the question loomed. Did Tommy have the heart and determination to bounce back? Could he prove to himself and to the boxing world that he truly belonged among the elite of the heavyweight division? This setback tested Morrison's resolve, challenging him to show that his knockout power was matched by an unbreakable spirit. So, after the tough loss to Ray Mercer, Tommy Morrison took some time away from the ring. It was a period filled with challenges as he slipped into a lifestyle of partying and heavy drug use. But the call of the ring was too strong to ignore for long. He came back, knocking out a few opponents in routine stoppages until he met Joe Hip in June 1992. Hip was tough, the first Native American to challenge for the World Heavyweight title, and he pushed Morrison to the brink. In that fight, Morrison was almost beaten. He had a broken hand and a broken jaw, but in a moment of sheer will, he landed a massive right uppercut in the 9th round that turned the tables. Morrison himself said after the fight that Hip was one of the hardest punchers he'd ever faced. After Hip, Morrison kept winning, taking down one fighter after another, including a brutal match against veteran Carl "The Truth" Williams. This fight was not just a clash, but a real war, with both men hitting the deck twice. But again, Morrison's power saw him through, and he clinched a victory in the 9th round. His resilience paid off when he faced George Foreman for the vacant WBO heavyweight title. Against the odds and a much older Foreman, Morrison fought smartly, using his speed and agility to stay on the outside and hit Foreman with counters, including his trademark left hook. The fight went the distance, and Morrison won by a unanimous decision, achieving his lifelong dream of becoming a heavyweight champion. But the highs were followed by lows. Just 4 months after his victory over Foreman, Morrison faced Michael Bitt and suffered a devastating first-round knockout. This loss hit Morrison hard. His life off the ring once again spiraled into more partying and less training, affecting his form and focus. Yet, Morrison wasn't done. He bounced back to win 6 of his next 7 fights. His road through boxing was filled with dramatic highs and painful lows, but through it all, his fighting spirit was unmistakable, defining his journey in the ring. After the tough loss to Lennox Lewis, and despite the setbacks of heavy drug use and legal troubles, Tommy Morrison's boxing career took another unexpected turn. Promoter Don King saw an opportunity and offered Morrison a lucrative 3-fight, $10 million deal. The final fight in this deal was to be a highly anticipated showdown with none other than Mike Tyson, dubbed the baddest man on the planet. The first fight under this new contract was set against Arthur Weathers, a lesser-known fighter, essentially a tune-up match for Morrison. But just as this new chapter was about to begin, everything came to a grinding halt. During the routine medical checks leading up to the fight, Morrison dodged a compulsory blood test, initially claiming a fear of needles. Eventually, he took the test, but the results would forever change the course of his life. Morrison tested positive for HIV and was immediately banned from boxing by the Nevada Athletic Commission. During this incredibly tough time, basketball legend Magic Johnson, who had disclosed his own HIV diagnosis in 1991, reached out to Morrison. Together, they toured the country, giving talks and raising awareness about HIV, showing a glimmer of hope that Morrison was turning his life around. However, the stability didn't last. Morrison later served time in prison on drug and weapons charges. After his release, he made controversial claims that his HIV test had been false and expressed desires to return to boxing. He also met his future wife Trisha and replaced his prescribed medication with methamphetamine and cocaine, continuing his struggle with substance abuse. The story around Morrison's HIV diagnosis was surrounded by persistent rumors and confusion. Allegations surfaced that he and his mother knew about his conditions as early as 1989, 7 years before the public revelation. His own psychiatrist even wrote a letter in 1999, indicating Morrison had been living with HIV for 11 years without treatment. His ex-wife Dawn Bibby claimed Morrison had known about his diagnosis since 1989 and had almost bragged about it. Both spectacular highs and profound lows. On September 1, 2013, the boxing world said goodbye to Morrison when he tragically passed away in Omaha, Nebraska at just 44 years old. The cause was a cardiac arrest triggered by multi-organ failure and septic shock due to an infection by Pseudomonas aeruginosa, a severe and often aggressive bacterium. Tommy left behind a professional record that any boxer would be proud of: 48 wins, with 42 of those by knockout, alongside just 3 defeats and 1 draw. His journey through the world of boxing, filled with dramatic victories and intense challenges, his brief stint in Hollywood, and his public battle with health issues, all paint the picture of a man who lived his life with intensity and passion, leaving a memorable mark in the world of sports and beyond. That brings us to the end of our journey through the life of Tommy Morrison, a true fighter in every sense of the word. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you found Tommy's story as inspiring, please consider subscribing to our channel for more videos just like this. Don't forget to hit the like button and share the video with friends who love boxing and incredible life stories. Your support means the world to us and help us bring more content like this to you. Thanks again for watching, and remember to keep fighting your own battles with the heart of a champion.